They have a website that aggregates all the data, but it doesn't have, the company doesn't have an export or a way to get the data out, but this person figured out a hack to get the data out of your watch. So I pulled his stuff off GitHub, and now if I run a script in the terminal, I'm getting a spreadsheet every day of all the data from my watch. And this is my website. And so today I set up a little tiny thing that pulls in the data from each CSV file to add an entry when I wake up and when I go to bed, according to the data that's getting tracked by the watch and coming in. So it's not a whole lot, but I'll show you. So each record that I'm getting out of my watch per day looks like this. So there's other information that I haven't done anything with yet.
That's really small data.
Yeah. But I can get the time it records that I go to sleep, wake up, and then other things like light minutes spent sleeping, deep minutes spent sleeping, and REM time, which I want to add in next. I also have from my phone this data going back to 2010, measuring sleep, which I haven't done anything with yet, but I'd like to add that in also. So what, real quick here, if it opens, this here is just what I started with this morning. So I want to add in this component that will just add a little graph each day to show how much time I spent in light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. And that will sort of complete my little sleep time list on my site. So that's it, and thank you to Ben for making all the PHP work. And these little messages here update at random. So I have a new little random message for each one. The end.
Cool. Very cool. So is that live now every day on your site?
It's live every time I run the script and upload the files. Which also I have to plug in my watch to get the data, which I regularly do not do on a daily basis, so I should set myself a reminder for that in general.
You get the files, you said, right?
I need to get the data off the watch onto the server first, which requires that I plug my watch into the computer, which I never remember to do.
Very cool. I think that means you might be the second person adding sleep data to their site. After Aaron, I'm not sure if anyone else. Let's see. Who wants the demo next? I'm just putting this up here so we have something showing up.
Show up behind, I guess. Which works.
Aaron, there's a sleep page with IndieWeb examples. Add yourself. You're number 2. Well done. So, all right, you ready to demo? Cool.
You can move that up there because mine doesn't display it. Okay, so as of today, any link that comes into my site, I'm recording the referrer URL, and then asynchronously I'll go through, check all of those to make sure the link links to my site with a rel, without a rel no follow. and I store those as possible vouchers to send out. And now from within my micropub client, if I'm, say, replying to, is it adactio.com/links 8980 links/8980. I did that right? Should. Or I could be lying. 6980, that's why. So it's making an AJAX call to the back end on my side, and you can see it just pre-filled the vouch. Because Cardic linked to my site, I recorded that as a possible vouch. Now, when I type in reply to, it checks on my servers, or it does an AJAX request to my server that'll go out, pull this link, this reply to link, check for any links off of there, and see if there's something within my vouch. If not, it goes back to his homepage and will check there. So it just kind of does a best effort of those two pages. And from that, I'm able to pull vouch URL straight into my microbook client. That's it.
That's amazing.
Should I demo the other half of the vouch while we're on the topic of vouch?
Can you demo my awesome business card?
That's amazing. Okay, yes, you should.
So this is super rough, in progress, barely working code, but it is something. So I have a web page. It has a web mention endpoint, which, when you make a GET request from a browser, gives you a nice little form. I'm going to say contact.com links to aaronparkey.com. I'm going to send a web mention. Now this is doing, we lost the flowchart. This is doing.
So do you want me to show that? But he wants to put it out while he's talking.
Yeah.
And boom. One more try.
Okay. Perfect.
Boom.
Wow. So it's doing, to get here, what we did was did the first web mention check, and it said, do I approve the source? And my approval algorithm is basically a grep command of searching through all of my posts to find out if I have ever linked to contact.com. I have, in fact, linked to contact.com in the past, so it succeeded and redirected me back to the target that I said I was in, which was aaronparkey.com. It also has this status thing, which I'm in the middle of making pretty, but basically...
Was this your approve function?
This was, so it ran through the approved source method, and you are approved.
Okay.
And then here's the web mention status page, which says it's queued for processing. So basically, it got to this async point, sent back a browser redirect, and this is going to happen later, which it actually checks if contact links to me. And this is where the sender can go and actually see the status of my asynchronous work being done. So let me do the same thing now from something. So go back to my web mention endpoint. And random guy says, hey, here's a web mention. sends the web mention. I checked it against my approved source, and the answer was no, it's not approved. So this is the error that comes back. So the source is not from approved domain, resend it with the vouch URL. And if you did this from not a browser, it says just that text, not the full HTML.
With the 449.
With the 449 code, yeah. So if I then say, here's a vouch URL, and retry the web mention with that vouch URL, then it's going to say, this is valid, source is not approved, there is a vouch, and I approved the vouch because I have linked to the wiki, so I did that check. And then it says it kicks off async processing on the web mention, which means the viewer was redirected back to my status page, basically, which looks the same, queued for processing. And the very last step, which I did not finish, is this step, which is, does that vouch URL that I trust actually link, that I approved, actually link to the source website? And in this case, that would have failed because the wiki does not link to randomguy.com, and this would then show failed. So that's the very last step. So, almost done. Pretty good though. Not too bad. And of course, throughout this whole process, I ended up refactoring a huge chunk of my code base that involves processing web mentions. Sorry,
Did it get smaller?
It got organized. Basically what I did is I moved everything that is part of the HTTP request into one file, and all of the async stuff that's used by that goes into a separate file, where before they were kind of mixed. Well, then all my status handling code and stuff for displaying the status back to the user goes in a separate file. So that made it much more organized, because basically I'm trying to make sure that I don't ever make an HTTP request outgoing from the HTTP handling code. So I just want to make sure that's all in one file so I can just easily check, like, oh, I see an HTTP request there, I need to move that.
Very cool.
Cool.
And then you have, so the third file is,
Third file is the status
status display?
status display
Of-
of the web mention processing, the async processing. Oh, and it's also worth mentioning that everything that's happening is logged for me in a database, so I can see who's being used for vouchers, the status of the vouchers, whether they're approved, and all that stuff. So all that's going into being logged.
That's
Sweet.
cool. Awesome. It sounds like you're almost, like another hour, you're going to be done
Yeah.
getting it working. So you'll be able to receive vouchers, you'll be able to send vouchers. And we can do one more demo after everyone else is done.
Yeah.
Sure.
No HDMI.
Sandra, do you have a HDMI to VGA adapter, like for Chromebooks or for Dell books?
Yeah, I probably have one up in my office.
Okay, be awesome.
So you have HDMI out.
Yeah.
Somebody do the boring demo.
I can do a boring demo.
I could just hold my laptop up real high.
Well, let's wait. He'll get that after. So I did two things on my IndieComms page that I got working. One of which I can actually demo, but I need the help of an Android.
Any Androids here?
Any Androids here, right? Exactly. And one of which I can't. So on my IndieComms page, like contact.com, contact.html, looks like that normally. And the one change I made is I used the platform OS detector script that Ray found. So that if you're on iOS or Mac OS, it actually shows the FaceTime icon. But if not, so anything else like Android or Windows or Chrome or whatever, Linux, the FaceTime button is not shown. And so, for example, on Ben's Android, you can see the same page loaded. Whoops, click the button. You can see, I don't know if you can see that there's only 5 icons and there's no FaceTime icon when he's looking at it. Because if you tap the FaceTime icon, he would just get an error no matter what. So there's no point in showing that. So a minor bit of platform conditional coding to show fewer options to the user. The other thing I added, which I can't seem to get to work, is the add to home screen prompting animation, which is supposed to show only the first time you load the page. I guess it sets a cookie or something. But it didn't show up on mine, and I'm wondering if someone else has a iOS device that they can try loading my contact.html page and maybe hold it up in front of the demo thing to see if that actually, because it'll go really fast before you hit return.
The stream gets a better view.
Yeah.
Maybe hold it like this. And does it load?
What's it loading?
Reload. It's trying to load like a little animated. Tim got it working. But I guess I have to dig through why that's not working. Or maybe you've loaded it before. I don't know.
I have opened the page before.
Yeah, I don't know how it detects that though. If it's never detected it before, how could it know?
Wait, was that supposed to go to your homepage?
No.
Oh.
So I have to dig into that. How does that actually work? But that's about it. Take notes.
Little fun one, not really something I did today, just something I did last week. I had to brag. My new business cards, Ben Roberts, so the BR tag worked. And the other side is actually a marked up H card, and it's color matched to my Vim context highlighting too. So yeah. Apparently, I'm guessing he just zoomed in. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Everyone has my phone number now. Doesn't matter.
Who's up next?
Hoping my data, I would get through this data load, but I may not. No luck?
No.
Okay.
This is very loose. Andy missed all the cool stuff. That's right. Andy missed all the cool stuff.
I'll just watch it on YouTube later.
Nice.
Or right now.
Yeah. I need to get some comments for that.
It's all good.
That's it. Project YouTube up there and aim the camera at the monitor.
Frozen? Really? Maybe.
Well, that's not the display. Just a second. I need to be able to see my display. Vertex 1010. Cursor. This is what happens when you run pre-release operating systems. Even if they're not.
Someone says in the channel, Brett says Mooner Nights in the channel, so the video stream is.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, there are Moonanites in the channel. But there also needs to be a display. Or I can just turn my laptop around and point at things.
What happened?
It is
Ah, there you go.
possibly. I just want to find my cursor in here. Okay. That maybe slightly more. So, with an awful lot of help and life hacking from Ben, I spent my day importing Twitter into my known instance. And I am now through March of this year, coming from 2006. And it's actually into a test known instance because I've had to do it 3 times already. But the fact that it is a reply to Twitter works. All of the
Whoa.
the fact that it was actually originally a post on Twitter works.
Wow.
Dates and times work once you get past 2010. Before 2010, only dates work. The Twitter export just drops timestamps from anything before late 2010, even though they're there in the web UI. But things import. I'm trying to think of what is exciting. I have not undone t.co URLs yet. But replies, it knows what's a reply to what. And it is a little bit of an abomination. So I didn't bother to implement actually getting a token from IndieWebCamp. I went and stole tokens from elsewhere. So I only needed to do this. So a stupid little class, the only thing that matters really is posting to the known endpoint. And the token for my dev instance. Anyone on the stream is welcome to post crap to my dev instance. It's a dev instance. The hard-coded endpoint, because I'm not doing discovery yet, and this is a one-timer. I'm grabbing all of the JavaScript exported files from a Twitter dump, stripping off the first line of them, which makes them parsable JSON, parsing them as JSON. And then, because each month is ordered the way is ordered in reverse, I reverse the tweets in each month, walk through them. I tell known that it is syndicated from Twitter. I tell it what the content is. I hack up in reply to URL, and I import it. I use this handy no mention feature that Ben just added about an hour and a half ago, which means that it does not automatically web mention every URL in every tweet since 2006. It was being slow on Doppler tweets. But all in all, it's about 15 lines of code. And really, it should be the same kind of importer for anything you can get into a data structure. And it is just using IndiePub.
What's IndiePub again?
Or MicroPub. It is labeled as both.
The plugin, I believe, is called IndiePub.
Yeah, is it well spelled out?
Which is a known plugin that implements micropub?
That is IndiePub. Got it.
That's a good question. How did you decide not to send web mentions for your imported?
Well, so part of it is, this is still a test import. And I know that I don't want to send web mentions to a throwaway URL possibly 8 times.
Okay.
I am unsure about whether I want to send web mentions for historical content that is imported from elsewhere. I don't know. It feels a little spammy to basically send 14 years of web mentions in a couple hours. Or sorry, 8 years of web mentions in a couple hours.
And we have our first instance of web mention spam.
And you said you were getting stuck on Doppler?
Doppler was the thing in my history, in my early tweets that had the most URLs, and it was timing out, and Gnome was timing out trying to web mention off to Doppler, which doesn't work.
Trying to get the endpoint, probably.
Probably. And Kevin corrected what I said into the tweet summary.
Non-mention sounds like something you say when you eat something.
Nom mention, yes.
Only matter of time before we have non mentions.
Food indie blogging.
I guess that might be an om-nom mention.
You guys are gonna love my next demo.
Sorry?
You're gonna love my next demo.
Awesome.
Does it involve eating?
It might. Who's next?
Gifts and this.
All right, anyone ready to demo right this second? Can we demo yours on our computer? Okay, I'll look this up.
I don't know how to use MacBook.
Are you using Firefox?
Yes.
Okay, it's mostly the same.
Except that button that makes it explode.
Ben, does your UI just work to check for vouch URLs regardless if you're logged in or not?
Yeah. Right now,
Wow.
I'm going to fix that.
But is it assuming your
It's
domain?
assuming my,
Okay. It finds vouchers for you,
yeah.
not for who's logged in.
I mean, if we had some standard for where I could pull vouchers, suggested vouchers, like an endpoint that says this is my lookup point,
Well,
it would be possible. I mean, it'd be very easy to do.
well, besides crawling?
Well, vouch service?
Yeah. That's interesting, though. That a micropub client could actually try to be intelligent about finding a vouch for you. All right, so let me close that down. New window. Have at it.
Today and yesterday, I was working on getting my sister's site set up with Noon. Which is that one. And there's our lovely sway picture. I got it set up so she can pass you to Twitter. I'm not going to show because I don't want to spam her Twitter, but here's one. The test one, I think, that I did earlier. I think it was this one.
Cool. Yeah, I liked it. So, does that mean you set up Bridgie as well?
Oh, yes, I did get Bridget set up also for my sister. And, it does look like it's working. Where'd the other one go? And another thing I was doing, why can't I click it? There it is. I was also getting her set up with SSL.
Well,
And she has an A+.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, and I also found a bug with Noon about a session thing that I brought to Ben's attention, and he said he was gonna work on it.
I'll try and fix it tonight.
And then after that, I started working on my site some more, but I didn't really get anywhere interesting. It's like normal. And that's that.
That's awesome. Is she watching on the stream?
I think she's in New Hampshire right now doing stuff.
Okay. Cool.
You do websites for people?
I try not to.
Oh, wait.
The correct answer.
Good one. Okay. So we have, I think that's the first like HTTPS achievement for this IndieWebCamp, right? 'Cause we had a ton of them at IndieWebCamp UK. It seemed to be like the theme of the camp. Everyone was just like getting on SSL like crazy. So well done. That's like less than 48 hours to domain registry to SSL A+, which I think is a new record that I've seen.
What does A+ mean?
There's this, so SSL Labs has a whole bunch of different criteria that they check, and then they give you a summary grade as a result. But if you check IndieWebCamp.com/HTTPS, it'll show you that there's like a whole series of different levels of HTTPS
It's
support.
basically how well your server's configured and running and
Right, like are you supporting forward secrecy? Are you rejecting old ciphers? Are you doing all these kinds of things? Yeah.
yeah.
You can see, I don't know if you can see, like it has a whole bunch of different tests that they're showing there. And it's checking for all kinds of different attacks and things. That's pretty awesome.
Anybody else?
Sure.
Sorry.
Alright. So, I didn't get anywhere near as far as I was hoping to get, but
Because you did lots of stuff for other people. That's
So-
good.
I was going to work on Reader. The stuff you can't see is known now works on PHP 5.3. It's got 3 fewer major dependencies. The database backend has been rewritten. The
Whoa.
IndiePub plugin has been rewritten, and the Bookmarks plugin has been rewritten. Also, I wrote an importer for basis watch data. So forgive me that this isn't quite the demo I was hoping to give. But so I showed this sort of yesterday morning, and it really was a fake page that didn't do anything. What I've done, I'm trying to build a reader. This is kind of an interim interface, but let's say, so Erin just left us. I want to follow her. I'm going to plug in her address. What it's going to do is take a look at her content, just give me a preview, and then I can follow her really quick. And let's just do that was Erin, who of course uses known, which is microformats. Let's pick a site that uses not microformats, and that works too. What doesn't work, and now I'm going to cheat. What doesn't seem to work quite properly is actually what we got working last time in Portland, which was kind of internal reactions. So, the ability to reply and comment and that kind of thing. And here, what we're actually seeing is that it is only displaying my content, because I've subscribed to myself, and it seems to have blown everybody else out. Still, give me another couple of hours, and that'll be working, and the replies will be working, and that's how I'm going to interact with everybody on the web from here on out. Is actually on a page on my own site where I can comment in line, reply in line, RSVP in line, and so I can service my dopamine addiction, hopefully from my own page rather than the Twitter app on my phone. So that's me. Thanks.
Those /stream.
Yeah. But it's not on anybody's installation except for my own.
So you have to have that deployed on your own site.
Yeah, it's attached to the known installation rather than being a central application. So everybody gets their own reader. We're going to be doing it differently on the hosted site for obvious reasons. So there's no point in holding the crowd out for everybody's feeds from 35,000 people. But the idea is that anybody can have a reader on their own site and therefore customize it into the style of it.
Cool. Okay.
If I'm out of time, I guess I could go.
Yeah.
I can. I have another one to throw in. I just don't want to jump in front of anybody else who's ready.
Sandra, if you're ready, you should.
If you're ready.
Well, I'm trying to get more stuff working, but there's no way I'm going to.
Okay.
So I guess I can just go ahead. It's not nearly as impressive as I was hoping. Suppose I was being overly ambitious and that I was trying to both extract my old LiveJournal persona and bring it up on a new personal site. And the extracting part took a long time, and so I didn't get very far with the personal site. Displays. Did it flash or anything? It was?
Sandra, what's your Twitter?
Sandhawk. Put it in
Sandhawk. Got it.
And apparently I can't project. Actually, we discovered that yesterday, didn't
Oh, really?
we? Yeah. Well, just yesterday morning I tried to get the projector working, and I think it has to do with the fact that I am trying to send too high resolution for it. So it's downgrade. Ten 24 by 760, and you can do that, right? That flashed.
Whoa. Up to 8 people watching.
Yeah. Okay, this is probably not. I should probably just tell you what I did.
You wrote it in Go, right?
Yeah, so mostly I figured out, I found a thing that on GitHub that that pokes at LiveJournal and downloads XML of all your posts and all the comments to it into numbered files. And sort of something that reads that XML and puts it into internal structure. And then the sort of tricky bit was mapping that into getting the replies and assigning URLs, because I wanted each, wasn't exactly sure how to do it, but I figured I'd make each of my posts have a URL that sort of corresponded to the ID it had in LiveJournal. So it's like my site /LJ/ the internal ID from LiveJournal. And then I put comments as another slash and then a number after that. And then put in reply to links between each of the replies and the replies to each other because it's threaded. So I put those links into there. And then I was going to make something to view it and I didn't get that far. So that's all. The fun part was the weird little things in LiveJournal, like the music and mood.
In their XML.
Yeah.
Like music, you said?
What music's currently playing?
I would love to go back. I mean, the music is so correlated last I've been on LiveJournal, right? But to go back and look at the mood over time, for the last 50 years or whatever by LiveJournal, that'd be an amazing thing to look at. Just visualizing this one.
Yeah, I didn't actually look to see, I don't remember mood, so I think it may have been a thing that was there for a little while.
No, mood was there for a good long time. Facebook added it recently. Facebook added it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And everyone
The
put it
better
out.
advertisers, it's hard to do it.
I'm gonna go on the other side of you. Like this. Who's next?
I will have something in a couple of minutes.
I can do it. Cool. I need this coffee for this demo. Important. So this is the thing that I was hoping to finish this weekend, and instead got totally distracted by this whole vouch thing, which is cool. So I'm cool with that. Vouch is fun. So this is a new microphone app I've been working on for for Peak, which goes along with Quill. Quill is the app that I wrote a couple months ago as a demo micropub client. Quill looks like this. It's just for text notes. Teacup is for tracking what you eat and drink. So it's got a similar sign-in process to Quill, so if anybody's used that, it basically is like built-in docs. So as you're signing in, it says, oh, I couldn't find your authorization endpoint, or I couldn't find your micropub endpoint, and links out to docs on how to do that. So Teacup is slightly different. I'm going to show you the flow that I see when I use it first. So Teacup, I sign in, it does a normal indie auth flow, and when I'm signed in, I see this list, which has a pre-filled set of choices of caffeine and alcohol. That's all I drink. And then there are custom fields for adding other things that drink or eat. It also does browser geolocation. So I found where we are here. It has an add to home screen button down at the bottom. So on my iPhone, it looks like this. It has a nice little icon. When I load it on the iPhone, it looks like this, and scroll down like you'd expect. So,
Are those buttons?
yeah, these are large buttons. So I'm going to show you a demo of this, which is why I'm talking. I can't lie. So I'm going to load the website on my phone. It was just launching the app, and then I'm just going to press copy. So one tap. And if you see on my phone, I don't know if you can see it from there, but it took me to the post on my site. So what I see after I use the Teacup app is I tap the button and it's on my site here. Now if I reload this page, it says drink coffee.
Back.
I got that.
How did it know what kind of cup you drank coffee out of?
It's that good.
That is a coincidence.
Wow.
It's a mistake. I fixed that on the plane over and I haven't launched that yet. It's supposed to just always be a mug if it's coffee. But that happened to work out nicely.
Well, what's drink coffee versus drink a coffee?
It's the other application, which I'll show in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so the point
Is there a URL for Teacup?
teacup.p3k.io. And yes, you can share that. It's running and it works. So the point I want to make here is, in this instance, Teacup is a micropub client to my site, and it posted the coffee to my site. If, for example, somebody logs in who does not support micropub, then here's what happens. Yes. So I'm just signing in as my pin13.net test account. It says, hey, it looks like your site doesn't support micropub. You can still use this site to track what you drink, and the post will live here instead of on your own site. And then it has a sign in button. So this lets me sign in as pin13.net, which I put a GPG key on so I can actually sign in. And
This is
now,
IndieAuth, right?
it's IndieAuth. It'll just fall back to IndieAuth.com unless you've specified an auth server, in which case it'll use yours. And now I'm signed in as pin13.net, and I can use the app. And now if I click drink coffee, instead of redirecting to pin13.net, because the post isn't there, it doesn't try to make a micropub post, and instead it just stores it. And now you can see the post is on Teacup. So, and if you look at the URL, it's teacup.peak.io/pin13.net. And if I go to that page, I actually have now a profile on Teacup for that domain, where this list lives. So, in this case, now it's acting like a silo, where I signed in using my domain, and it's storing all the content for me. But I can still use the app, which is pretty cool. AirPractic.com also gets a profile page here, which shows all the stuff I've tracked within this app, and little maps that go along with it. But if you click on the permalink for one, the permalinks link out to my copy of them. And of course, it has microformats, so these are all H entries, with the URL being my canonical version instead of the Teacup.
What is that view you just went to?
That's a little bookmark that I have, which runs it through the Pin13 macromodes parser, so I can toggle between parsed version and HTML version. Okay, so lastly, this is what GWG is waiting for. I really wanted to be able to use this Teacup app from my watch. So this is why there's a list of items. Because obviously on my watch, I can't type things. But I can definitely choose things from a list. So on my watch, instead what I see is this. This is, I just took these pictures while I was sitting over there. So that's my home screen showing the time. I click the app list, I scroll down to Teacup. It's got the little icon and everything. And then, this is that same list that we're showing on the website. And you can scroll through the list to get the other stuff over there. And then when I click one of the buttons, it does that micropub post and saves it on my site and in TCUP. So if you have micropub, this will post it to your site. If you don't, it'll post it to your TCUP account. So you can use it. So yeah, my goal is, the thing I was hoping to finish was the actual sign-in screen to set up the Pebble app. Because the Pebble app needs to be able to do the whole Indie auth flow from the phone, basically. So yeah, when you go to set up Pebble apps, you're actually going to your phone to configure it, which is very clever of them. So you can do more stuff that requires a keyboard and web pages. So that I'm hopefully going to finish either on the plane tomorrow or when I get home, because I'm very excited about it. But yeah, Indie web friendly silo is the goal of this, basically. Now I gotta finish my coffee.
Awesome. Yeah, good to see you.
Yes.
See you later. Yeah.
Is this stuff on the watch, is it the same app or is it a different app with the same interface?
It's its own little code base that renders the menu and stuff, but it's talking to the TCUP site as an API, basically. So it's fetching the list of items from their
What's that written in? Is it-
JavaScript.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not running in the browser exactly?
No.
Okay.
I might ask Bill if this works. I have something to show. Anyone else?
Talk about what I intend to do, I think I'm also going to have. Yeah, but.
Ben, what's your RC, Nick?
Emma Lencian. I have officially branded on that for everything.
Sweet. RC mentioned, okay. Nice. Okay.
I'm a Drupal web developer and part of writing a book, Definitive Guide to Drupal 7. And I'm shocked that there's not far more involvement from the Drupal community in the IndieWebCamp movement. So I'm going to do what I can to change that. And what I personally want most is just, that site where everything I interact with, every time I post an article, it's being stored in my system, not just being in Twitter and everything. So right now, my personal site is Drupal 5 and not working, and I just don't get around to updating these things. And so that's what I used to do. I used to, 4 or 5 years ago, I posted things here and I posted out to Twitter and Facebook. And of course, Twitter and Facebook keep breaking those things, and I don't keep up on it personally. So I'm sort of looking right now as sort of what to do now is just do all of make my home.
Quick interrupt. What's your Twitter?
MLNCM.
Okay,
Consistent
also.
branding.
Okay.
I fixed my AOL screen name problems long ago. So I would like to be, I think I'll want to make known sort of my home base for interacting with the internet, at least for a while. And so as a step towards that is to be able to push from known to a Drupal website. And Drupal 8 is going to have really good REST support. So I just want to be able to post to a Drupal site the same as way we can post to Twitter or Facebook. And so that's what I started working on today. And sort of in that context, it would be nice to actually be able to configure Gnome to post to more than one Twitter, more than one Facebook, or more than one Drupal site. So I'd like to be very on that sort of like UI, how we change these settings, but still make it easy for, you know, the 80% use case, people have one account each, and that's what it should be. It's your personal blog, but you know, a lot of us end up with more than one Twitter, you know, the Facebook page and the Facebook personal. I need to support that for a friend who I owe completely redoing her website, and so that's sort of my short-term goal is to try to help improve, you know, basically be able to help make Known do everything that Buffer does, but do it better. And you actually have a record. So, I mean, it actually, skipping the part that Buffer actually is supposed to do, which is the scheduling of posts. But so, that includes, if I haven't blocked myself out of Twitter, I don't know if the screen shows you, but every time I have a Twitter thing, there's a little buffer post. And is there anything like that for Known yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. So if we can make that, then it's like, yeah, so that's exactly how I want to interact. I want to be able to hit Known and it goes to my Known site. And then from there I decide, do I post it to Twitter? Do I also post it to Facebook? And does it stay on my Known site? Do I also post it to my another website? So sort of like, I've always had this feeling that I sort of want to be able to just put everything out publicly, but not pushing on anyone. And so now I'm sort of like a couple levels of Known, like just Known, like the front page of a site, and then Twitter and Facebook for pushing it out to more people, and everything else is just I'm you know, just recording what I find on the internet, and I haven't been doing that publicly for a long time because my tools are broken. So anyhow, first thing I'm working on is just being able to post from Known to a Drupal 8 site, which when Drupal 8 comes out sometime at the end of the year-ish, it'll be, you know, it should be nice. I don't yet know, I shouldn't actually need to make a Drupal 8 module to do it that way. But yeah, that's what I'm working on now and hopefully can finish today, because it shouldn't be that hard. And then I'm also interested in Drupal natively being able to do everything Known can do, but I think I'd like to help Known and the general IndieWeb process do it first.
So, I mean, we should talk some more about that because we were talking about breaking out some of the functionalities that, you know, as modules that you can stick in other things. So.
And Drupal 8 plays much more nicely with the whole PHP world now than Drupal 7 does. So, like it uses Guzzle. I saw Guzzle is used somewhere as like a fallback in Known. I wasn't sure if I would need to use it for what I'm doing. I'll still find that.
Probably not, yeah. But, thank you.
Thank you. Cool. One tiny little thing. Unfortunately, it is tiny. And no. Sorry.
Oh, that's not going to plug into this.
I did not bring the dongle for you. So, I have this telephone here. I have a Twitter client. I am bad about my IndieWeb stuff, and then I tend to just reply to tweets from within the Twitter client because it's easy. So this thing I did in the last 20 minutes. Share. Known.
Oh yeah.
Reply to Kevin.
Oh yeah.
Upside down.
Yep. Hi.
I was about to ask if there was much app integration, but that's even better.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Every
And
single app now.
it's a little hard to do this upside down, and I will also publish that to Twitter. And we're gonna hope that this works. Because I haven't actually tested publishing yet.
So how does that work?
So this is a tiny little Apache Cordova app, and all it is
Say Apache
is
Cordova?
yes, Cordova is it's the Apache version of it. It uses it basically listens for an Android intent of share something. It grabs the text of that, and then it launches. At the moment, hard-coded to my Known website with the share reply page. And the way that I got around the fact that the Android Twitter app shares check out this tweet, here's a URL, is I do a regex and match for anything to HTTP and throw away the bit before HTTP. It's a total egregious hack, but it works fine. So the question is, did my tweet actually go to Twitter?
It did.
Awesome.
Oh,
Full of
no,
porn.
it's Kevin Marks. Sorry, Kevin Marks tweeting about you doing it.
So on my,
Did you have a hashtag IndieWeb?
I did not hashtag an IndieWeb because I was typing upside down.
It's a good excuse.
It's hard to type hashes upside down.
But twitter.com/Fobra and
Is this you? Is that your tweet?
yeah, that's me. It went out. Awesome.
It did?
Yeah.
Oh, to Kevin.
To Kevin, because it was a reply.
Got it. All right, secondary question, how quickly can I get this on my phone? Because you're about to say, that's going to take me like 3 hours a day.
Oh, tell me, if you bring your phone over here and tell me what, yeah, and tell me, and
So you shared his tweet?
I shared his tweet. Share is the way on Android to get the
Anything.
content of something somewhere.
Right.
So I shared his tweet
To Cordova?
to Cordova, and it is an app
Cordova
that
is hard-coded to
At the-
launch.
basically all it does
This
is
a mini app.
it is an app, and all it does is it listens for this I gotta share, and then it sets window location href to https/share type reply, share URL, encode URI component, that URL. So word.io is the place you would like this to go to.
Are you going to spin me up my very own app? That's better.
It's just easy. Yes, it's because it is the slacker way to do this.
So you
Or-
said hi. Is that-
That's all I typed. I typed hi and hit send.
And you're using a URL shortener? Oh, no, that's
No,
your domain.
Sly is my domain.
He doesn't need a URL shortener.
I have the shortest thing I can possibly get away with.
That's pretty Sly.
If you're willing to let me install apps on your phone,
I am more than willing. Please. I lay my phone down.
I will clean this up a tiny little bit and get it somewhere.
Great to meet you.
This is going on the live stream.
And
Oh, pick it up. Good to meet you, Andrew.
take care. I'm clicking OK to allow.
Yeah, definitely. And come back and visit some IRC too, for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes,
We'll see you soon. Night.
I'm going to allow Google to regularly check. Basically,
Yeah.
Google is going to search for. All right, that is installed.
Beautiful.
So if you wouldn't mind trying it,
I will not mind trying it.
you're going to have to log into your site within that app.
That's fine.
My intent is to just make it so that if there isn't an intent, it will just open your site.
What's the app called?
You can only get to it by it should be called known.
Oh, okay.
The
But-
app is called Known.
I just typed the word known into the config thing.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
I will have to talk to them about licensing.
It should be like IndieShare or something, right?
It should be. If it were anything other than a redirect to the hard-coded URL on your known site, that would be much better.
If you could configure it to where it was a redirect to.
Right. I mean, well,
And then
and
it could
presumably
be- it could be-
it should be a micropub client. Like the right way to do that is a micropub client, but the way that was less than 10 lines of code was a no.
No, so it's request URL/share, it's not found on this.
Did I get your? Let me look. What is your site?
Word.io.
Let me see how I typoed it. 'Cause
Is
that's-
anyone else having networking problems?
That could. Oh, you're not HTTPS.
My Achilles heel, you've discovered it.
Oh, I've discovered it several times.
All right, do you want me to kill this app?
You don't have to kill it. I'll just reinstall it.
Okay.
Did it show the GNOME logo as it started up?
As a splash screen, yes it did.
Lovely, because it didn't. I did that in between the last time I installed it on mine.
I'm gonna have to try it. I've never used Crawlover.
It's. I mean,
cool.
yeah.
Do you need like a Java environment and stuff?
So no, it's all JavaScript. So though to build for Android you need a Java environment. To build for iOS you need Xcode. I don't know what you actually need to build for Windows Phone or BlackBerry.
But to build for Android, you do.
But yeah,
That worked. Thank
cool.
you.
For Firefox OS, I don't know what you need. Like,
Sure.
yeah,
I hear you just need a text editor.
that's
That's all.
having built Firefox OS. I really hope that's true because holy crap.
I understand it's just HTML, JavaScript.
But I thought there was like for packaging. I don't know what the. I don't know whether you need some scripts for packaging. Anyway. Now I suppose I need the watch version.
Yeah.
Voice posts.
That was very slick.
I'm glad it worked because it came very close to not working. And,
Pushing the source code anymore?
I'll have it up on GitHub sometime tonight. I want to clean it ever so slightly because it was beat until it works.
I mean, that's hard-coded.
Well, and I went through 4 versions of the plugin because there are a bunch of different forks of the web intent plugin. Also, they call this web intents because it's a web bridge for Android intents.
Not to be confused with the stillborn Google technology.
Right. Or the Twitter one. I thought Twitter had something called web intents.
Twitter still calls their things in Twitter intents.
Yeah. Okay.
But they've also called them tweet actions in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Do you know why the web intents?
No, Twitter
died?
totally has something they call web intents.
because they didn't bother to actually get UX to work, and they spent all their time like focusing on the protocol piece. And when they actually tried to ship it, it resulted in this horrible UI in Chrome. They got so many complaints that finally the Chrome team was like, "No, we're taking this out."
I see.
Yeah. So it was classic like design protocol first.
Yeah.
And
Twitter also calls theirs web intents.
oh, jeez.
Anyway.
So much for that term.
Yeah.
Is anybody?
Well, their intent was good. Or something.
Phil?
I have my first IndieWeb.
That sounds good. So your interaction is when you want to reply to something, you share it.
Yeah.
You share it to your site,
Yeah.
and
Kevin. Yeah.
then you can decide in that posting UI what to do.
Yeah. There's a
I'll
thing
make
that
that
may or may not work. Kevin has suggested that I could also intercept Twitter's web intents. I don't think Twitter would be so crazy as to be running through the that layer of indirection within their app, because otherwise Facebook would have overloaded the reply button.
So I made a thing, and it's a little Firefox plugin that when you go to web pages and say if I select some text, then if I select some text, then it's gonna post it onto my micropub through the website. So it's like a reputable thing site, select on the web.
Just the act of selecting.
Yeah, I mean, there should be some more like
Wow.
interface to it. But it's just like the no interface, like
Yeah.
method. So, but it's just like a proof of concept micropub client on Firefox.
Making your clipboard always available on the web.
No, it's not the clipboard actually. It's just stuff you select. So if you like copy paste,
And that's
it's not gonna.
And did I see that it grabbed the title of the webpage and the URL as well?
That's right, yeah, sorry. I'm hoping to replace Delicious. I've been using Delicious for, since Delicious is a thing.
Yep.
And I have, it's like 5,000 bookmarks, which I'm hoping to IndieWebify, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a convention for basically something that's even smaller than a note, which is just
Wait, did you read that wrong?
There.
IRC Nick?
Oh, dash.
It was like,
That, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, yeah, no worries.
I have all these bookmarks. I'd like to have them, some of them public, some of them private, without, none of them necessarily have any commentary.
Yeah, there's some bookmark posts, and likes are actually probably the smallest thing you can do.
Yeah, I don't even know that I like them. Right?
I would say I bookmark then, because
Yeah.
like I have a bookmarked stream now, which sometimes it is nothing but the link in the
I
title.
think that's the first Firefox micropub client.
Cool.
And when you added it.
Actually wrote the Firefox
Right,
code
you
a
did.
while ago.
I can add
Before I knew about
that if I
micropub.
want,
Uh,
but I don't have to.
so I just wrote this over today.
Did you get a login flow working with that too? Okay. I was gonna say, wow.
There's like no authentication. No, it's like, but yeah.
It's like hard code a token into the code for now. Or is your
What's
endpoint's
a
not
token?
authenticated? Gotcha. I saw it posting the local. so you're probably
Later,
safe for now.
details.
Was that a browser plugin or?
Yes, it's a Firefox extension.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing, let's see.
Is there a generally accepted vagrant file for Gnome?
No, we should have
I
one.
can contribute one now.
That would be incredible.
That's one thing I can work with.
That's totally, that would be really handy, actually, even just for us. I'm not a basic user, really, so, but it's the kind of thing that I would love to get started with.
All right, well,
Yeah.
Link it, if you don't know nothing to get that. Yeah. That's thank you.
all right, this is in the space of, you've already seen the drawing here, this is in the space of sketches rather than code
It
as
gets
demo,
so much more official on the website.
right? Okay. So yeah, a couple weeks ago, I finally brain dumped the thoughts I've been having for probably, I don't know, 6 months or so now on like how do we improve web mention to deal with the expected oncoming onslaught of automated spam. And there were 2 reasons for that. First, we were getting an increased number of people joining the IndieWeb community, either the IRC channel or via Twitter or whatever, saying, taking one look at a web mention and saying, oh, I remember getting spammed by pingback, there's no way I'm implementing this. So they didn't even bother to like look any further. Once they realized it was the same semantics as pingback, they're like, okay, it's the same vulnerabilities, I'm not going to bother. That, combined with the fact that known adoption kind of exploded, and we already have thousands of people now running known, the attractiveness of web mention as a spam target has just gone up by probably 2 orders of magnitude. And that sort of like started to keep me up at night. So I said, okay, I need to actually like write something down. And so I decided before I could even, rather than wait, I would just like brain dump into IRC. So I did that. And then here, finally, wrote up a diagram of how to implement it minimally, as far as I could tell. With Aaron PK kind of being my foil and saying, well, what about this and what about this? And so that's this diagram, which is now on the web, on the IndieWebCamp wiki, for everyone to check out, as well as the accessible text version of this diagram. So if you don't get images or whatever, you don't need to see images, you can look at the text version, which talks about the different blocks. If you only support web mention, this is the basic steps for supporting it. And these are the things, the code you have to write. Receive it, are the source and target valid URLs? No, return 400, let's continue. Do you approve the source? And this is the key piece that I realized had to be added. There's this notion of an approve function for a URL that is undefined what it actually does. And that's deliberate, that's per site, that's up to you to decide. You might do it, for example, with a whitelist. You might say, here's a list of my friends' domains, and therefore I will approve them. You might do it for a list of domains and profiles on social networks. You might do it as a cache of every site you've ever linked to, etc. There's lots of different ways of doing that. That's an approve function. We don't define it. We just assume you have one. So if you approve it, if you don't approve the URL, if you're just supporting web mention, then you return 400. Otherwise, if you do approve the source, then you say, well, then you have to check, does the target actually, something I accept web mentions for? If someone sends you a web mention, like if someone sends Aaron Parecki a web mention and the target is contact.com, he's like, no, I don't do that, sorry. But you have to do check that. And then finally check that the source links to the target. Right, that's the same check as pingback. And if any of those fail, return 400, otherwise accept it. So the piece that Vouch adds is at that approved source question. If you say no, then you check to see, if you don't approve the source, you check to see, does the web mention have a vouch parameter? If not, return 449, which is this awesome error code made up by Microsoft that we found on Wikipedia that basically has the exact meaning we need, which is try again, but with this additional parameter, which is exactly what we're saying. Try send a web mention with this additional parameter. Otherwise, if they do send you a vouch, then you check to see, do you approve the vouch? Same approve function, no new code. If not, return 400. And then does the vouch link to the source's domain? This part is key. So if the source says, here's my post, and here's a URL that vouches for me, by basically linking to my site somewhere, like the IndieWebCamp wiki, or like a friend in common, or any number of other ways. And that has to be satisfied. And then, of course, then the same tests as what I mentioned before, and that's it. So we also added, documented the async versions of that, where you do all the non-network processing first, and then when you get to the point where you have to do some networking processing, you queue an async task to complete the web mention. And then we documented how that async process works. So I got as far as documenting the design considerations, and then that's it. This little in progress marker on the /vouch page is how far I've gotten in documenting. And then there's a bunch of old notes here from, I forget who wrote that up.
There's a header.
Is that Brett? No. Is that
Ben?
Yeah, so Ben, who just left, did a first pass at writing up what he understood from my IRC brainstorm, but it's a little confusing because I used ABC in a certain way, and then he flipped A and B in his summary, so I'm going to probably rewrite those. But at least there's this nice diagram. We have one almost complete implementation of receiving, and one complete implementation of sending of vouch, which I feel is pretty successful for the first time we've actually written down how it's supposed to work.
Pretty good.
So, just to be clear, this is to 100% stop automated spam. And I mean every word in that. In other words, it's going to, you shouldn't have to go through any moderation for anyone who's doing automated spamming. Which means if someone is doing targeted spamming, decides to spam just you, and does all the difficult forensics to find out maybe someone sometime, maybe you have somewhere linked to some vulnerable site that they can then create a link on, and therefore they can send you a web mention with that as a vouch. Okay, we're not trying to protect against that scenario with this protocol. We're also not trying to protect against abuse. So if someone decides, I'm going to harass you and just send mean comments, like apparently Twitter has turned into, per Kevin Marks's recent blog post. This is not going to stop that either. So for any kind of targeted attack, the assumption is that doesn't scale for the attacker. On your end as the receiver, you're going to end up having to implement block functionality, which means you keep a blacklist of people that have harassed you or spammed you, targeted, and you just block those automatically before they even hit any other place in your code flow. So you don't even bother processing them. But vouch is not for targeted spamming or for abuse prevention. That was not the problem. So just to be clear of the scope. And I think it'll work. I haven't heard of any scenarios yet where you could actually hack this with automation. If anyone can think of one, I welcome it so we can improve the protocol. Okay.
Sweet.
If there's no more demos, then we are done for the day.
I think that's everyone.
All right, thanks everybody. You guys cranked today. Well done. And thank you in particular to Sandro for hosting us here and getting us the space, which was really good.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Sandro.
No problem at all.
All right. We are done at 6:30, and now we clean up. Okay.
We should probably put the tables back
Yeah.
out of the way.
Have you offered this food, Sandro, to the vultures, or did you already send out?
I didn't do that.
There are vultures that compete.
Around here? Oh, yeah.
It's a campus.
Poor starving undergrads.
All
Well, I'll
right.
also point out, it's approaching dinner time, so if there is anyone on campus that's like hungry, they may.
Also, we are